Hello, and welcome to the Geopolitics Explained podcast. As I continue to discuss the Indo-Pacific, today I'll explore the rapidly changing field of play in modern day conflicts. Strategies are shifting so rapidly that sometimes it's difficult to locate the arena in which a conflict is being fought. Cyber attacks can bring technology to a standstill with little trace, and infrastructure conflict can see pipelines destroyed and undersea cables cut with little evidence of a culprit. Some areas of modern day conflict are more visible, such as conventional military strength, financial conflict, and trade conflict. Despite the visibility of these branches of conflict, they all contribute to the deep, complex strategies that nations pursue against geopolitical adversaries today. This is because all of these arenas of conflict form a connected web that makes up the world of conflict today. Nowhere is this idea of a connected web of conflict more complex than in the US-China superpower relationship. It's this that we'll discuss today. So, to begin, what emerging new areas of conflict are we seeing as a part of the shift towards hybrid war? Firstly, we still see military conflicts. Now, we've typically seen fewer in recent decades, but they still do exist. But when we focus on great geopolitical powers, conventional wars are even fewer in number. Proxy wars, limited interventions, and new developing technology, such as drones, are reshaping conflicts. Unconventional hybrid warfare is giving state and non-state actors the facilities to pursue different methods to use in conflict that are less obvious. We also see economic and trade warfare quite frequently. This can involve sanctions or export controls, which are now very common on both sides of the US-China superpower tussle. In this environment, trade dependency is being weaponised, especially in the trade of necessities, such as the critical technology of the future, such as semiconductors. We also see financial warfare. The United States has enacted limitations on access to the SWIFT banking system. They have attempted to weaponize dollar dominance, and they have frozen reserves that other countries hold in dollars as financial tools of conflict. This is a visible area of hybrid conflict today, and as a result of this being so visible, we can see the strategies that other nations are pursuing to attempt to limit the power that the United States has in financial warfare. As a result of this, we are seeing an alternative, extensive financial system being built, led by the Chinese. We also have cyber warfare, where hackers can target companies, infrastructure, supply chains, and financial systems with extensive attacks. Espionage, satellite disruption, and GPS interference can also occur hidden in the background. We have information and psychological warfare that involves disinformation, deepfakes, AI content, and misinformation. The media spreads these narratives along with fear, polarization, and undermined trust. This creates confusion, and this forms a cloud over one of the more secretive forms of modern day conflict. We also have energy warfare. We have diplomatic warfare, where some nations will be excluded from certain blocks as a form of diplomatic isolation. And we also have legal warfare, where states with more power than institutions that should act as the checks and balances in this world exploit the power over other nations because there are no institutions keeping them in check. This basic coverage paints a picture of the environment of warfare today. This era of conflict is complex and more about overlapping, intertwined systems. A big goal here of this complex environment is to slowly chip away at a nation's resilience through multiple coinciding strategies. Because these strategies don't resemble conventional war, they often aren't easily visible, and conflict in the world today in this hybrid form is often understated in its severity. Now, in discussing hybrid conflict, it's clear that relations between the United States and China have been declining across multiple realms for many years. One such way that we can see that relations have been declining between the two nations is in these branches of hybrid conflict. So, as both China and the United States seek to pursue resiliency, the other is attempting to undermine this pursuit. So, where is this decline in relations between the United States and China most visible? Firstly, we have in trade, where tariffs, sanctions, trade restrictions, and mistrust are now damaging one of the most productive trade relationships from the past period of globalization. Because globalization is now slowly declining, this trade relationship is also declining. But this is worsened by a decline in relations in other areas. We also have technology, where semiconductor export controls, bans on the Chinese company Huawei due to espionage risk, and AI and quantum being seen as strategic assets are seeing stricter cross-border investment and a decoupling in research and development between the Chinese and the Americans. We also continue to have both nations pursuing military strength. China is rapidly seeking to expand its military and naval assets, as we saw with China's recent military parade. We're also seeing evidence of the United States trying to expand its military strength with the orders of more bunker buster bombs and more B-2s in the pipeline. Diplomatically, many polls also show low levels of public trust between China and the United States. China sees the United States as a declining hegemon, and the United States views China as a geopolitical rival over multiple realms. This naturally spreads domestic narratives in both of these countries of dislike. There are also clashes occurring between the Chinese and the Americans in finance, especially with the role that the dollar plays, and with China holding a large amount of US treasuries. There are also, of course, Donald Trump's tariff policies that he's pursuing against the Chinese. Finally, we have a decline in cooperation in academia and in cultural exchange. The US has recently tightened visa policies for Chinese students and has pursued campaigns in general against foreign students. So, with all these realms of potential conflict in mind, will we see a more conventional conflict occur between the United States and China, or will they attempt to chip away at each other through these hybrid methods? So, the future of conflict promises to spread more confusion. Perception is a modern day contest where nations fight for control of the narrative. Emerging technology such as AI, technological propaganda campaigns, and misinformation will see this fight for control of the narrative worsen. It's so difficult to gauge any developments in this arena of conflict because every nation is involved in this fight for control of the narrative. What's clear is that the nations that are undertaking this pursuit are already in direct conflict with one another, as we've discussed through the multiple realms of hybrid conflict that we've seen emerge in the last few years. However, one issue that has emerged as we've entered into this hybrid world is that the interconnectedness of the world that was built on the back of globalization isn't typically suited to attempting to hurt a geopolitical adversary. If one nation hits another in one area of hybrid conflict, they're susceptible to being hit back in a completely different area. As a result of this, global interconnectedness is naturally going to decline. I've discussed this in recent episodes, where globalization will give way to regionalization, and nations who are unhappy with the current world order of today will pursue a new multipolar system where they feel better represented. This trend of declining interconnectedness is another reason that supports the transition from globalization to regionalization. As a part of this pursuit to disconnect, I expect the less visible areas of hybrid conflict, such as cyber warfare, space conflict, and psychological warfare, to grow in frequency. China will naturally lead the rise of this alternative global system, and the United States will seek to defend the system of today. With both nations having so many tools at their disposal, and with interconnectedness declining, both nations will seek to hurt the other, while also seeking to build resilience against the tools that the other possesses. Geopolitical relations between the two superpowers are declining across multiple realms, and with a wide range of areas of hybrid conflict in which the United States and China can compete, this declining trend is likely to continue. Now, it's difficult to predict the future outright, but we can look at the forces that will unmistakably play a role in the direction that we're heading in. For the United States and China, their decline in relations has been a trend that's occurred over many years, and nothing looks set to disrupt this trend. With so many hybrid strategies to pursue today, we could see relations improve in one area between the United States and China, but they could be rapidly deteriorating in another. It's this point that will reinforce this negative direction in relations between the two. So with this negative spiral in relations set to continue, we can consider potential future scenarios in this superpower tussle between the United States and China. It's this that I'll discuss next episode as we explore many scenarios for how this era of hybrid conflict between the two nations could unfold. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this episode, why not leave a review on the podcast platform of your choice? I've been Dylan, and I'll talk to you next time.